Hello, Soul Tribe. This is Renee Asiri with Inside Job Healing with this week's April energy forecast. So, I hope you enjoyed the last week or so where we had a reprieve from these crazy cosmic energies. And trust me, astrology is a science. It is the real deal. It does affect our lives, whether we want to believe it or not. And so now that you've had this reprieve, let's last week, there's really no need to recap. We had Jupiter and Mars, right, in a really nice aspect. So we kind of had a chance to take a breather, but we're still climbing that mountain. And guess what? This week, today is Tuesday, so yesterday, Mercury and the Sun came into the sign of Taurus to join Venus, which we said is nicely aspected there, and also Uranus. And Uranus is a planet of unpredictability and surprises and shakeups, right? So we have that, and we have, Venus, which is the love and resource and relationship planet. It is nicely aspected in Taurus, which is a sign that is very earthy. It's very material. It's a sign that likes to slow down. It likes the status quo. It doesn't like change. So for Uranus to be in the sign of Taurus is there's shakeups happening, right? And so that's what we're dealing with this week. Even though Taurus wants to keep things the way they are, it wants us in our comfort zone, we are going to be pushed out of our comfort zone. Not only because Uranus is in Taurus, but we have Venus, Uranus, and we have Mercury and the Sun in Taurus. So all of them are there creating a stellium, a grouping that is squaring Saturn in Aquarius, right? And so if you recall earlier in January, we had a bunch of planets in Aquarius, which is a very progressive sign. It's a futuristic sign. It's the sign of the future and, future generations, a humanitarian sign, right? And so we had all these planets. And if you recall, January was really rough astrologically because they were all squaring, right? And so Saturn was in opposition, and we had Uranus in play. And Pluto, and there was just a lot of activity going on in January. So a lot of our fears, a lot of our insecurities just all came to the surface, like our wounding. A lot of us were really, really hurting in January. Well, unfortunately, this is kind of a similar stellium, but it's on the Taurus side now instead of the Aquarius side. But it's still opposing Saturn in Aquarius. Well, we talked about Aquarius, but what does Saturn represent? Saturn represents restriction, fear, the old guard. It represents, discipline and responsibility and limitation, right? So it's kind of like the way that we've always done things. And now that we're breaking out of that cycle, because as you know, we've been working towards, this new paradigm that we're creating for ourselves, but the cosmos have not made it easy. They're like, whatever self-sabotage, whatever fears, whatever insecurities, whatever patterns that we are still holding on to, we cannot bring that into the new paradigm. We cannot bring that into 5D. And so all these cosmic activities, as much as we love to hate them, are designed to bring out in ourselves, right? Especially moons, like full moons, like draw out these energies, right, in us, right? So what this all means is that there's going to be shakeups because you have Uranus, and it's in a stellium with all those other planets I mentioned, and it's opposing Saturn, which is in Aquarius. So there's going to be shakeups, there's going to be surprises, there's going to be frustrations this week, there's going to be challenges, and it's going to kind of be revisiting that energy that we experienced in January when it was a total S show. So don't be alarmed though, because don't make kind of like sudden impulsive changes because of the Uranus, activation and stuff like that. Just, be calm, work through the frustration. Perhaps the frustration's coming because of a lack of patience, right? So sometimes these things happen, right? The universe kind of orchestrates these situations that are really frustrating for us because it wants us to learn a lesson. So maybe we're supposed to transmute the energy of impatience, right? Maybe we're supposed to embrace waiting. Maybe we're supposed to embrace divine timing. And maybe we're supposed to burn off and transmute any stagnant energy of of anger that is still lingering in our energy field. And so it's really helpful to schedule an appointment with a healer like myself, so that way you can transmute all of these stagnant energies and really integrate them into your energy field, because you cannot bring those to your future now moment, because they're going to bleed in. And so this new timeline that you're creating, it's not an escape from this current timeline. You have to sort out everything you don't like in this timeline. Otherwise, you're just going to bring that baggage to the new timeline, right? So it doesn't make sense. You don't want to be on your island in Hawaii and still dealing with frustrations and credit card companies and, delays and like collections and all that. You don't want to deal with all that in your your paradise timeline, right? So right now, especially in April, I mean, gosh, Phil Good and Lori Ladd have done a bunch of energy updates together, which are fabulous. I highly recommend you check it out on Phil Good's YouTube channel. And that's Phil and then Good as in do good. And so they're talking about this, and I feel it with the collective energies, guys, is that this is a time that we need to work out these lingering things. And we're almost in the quantum field communicating with our future selves, right? And so whatever our current selves are holding on to that is not going to serve us in the future, April is this opportunity where we are burning off and transmuting all these negative emotions, right? Whether it's anger or frustration or impatience or whatever it is. And so we're being presented with all these challenges this month so that we can burn it off. So that way, when we do make it to that future timeline that we've been working so hard towards since December, January 2020 and 2021, we'll truly be able to enjoy it. And we're going to be like, oh my gosh, can life really be that good, right? So I understand that it's challenging. This week is certainly not as challenging as weeks past, but just don't be surprised if these themes have a way of rearing their ugly head again, even though you're like, man, I thought I dealt with that, right? But the universe has a way. It's almost like a weed. It's like when you think you pull the weed out, there's still some tentacles left. And it's almost like we're looking at the trauma or the wounding or the pattern from different angles, right? And so be prepared for that this week, guys. Don't be shocked. But again, on a positive note, Venus is in a sign it loves, which is Taurus. So it's a great time to get a massage or a facial or get your hair done like I did. So shout out to Cassandra at Aveda for doing an amazing job with my hair. I'm super, super happy with it. So this is the time to do that, right? And Luna's getting groomed today and beautified. So take advantage of these energies. Yes, there are some challenges happening, but on a positive note, there are some positive things happening as well. And Saturn, as you know, it's just like Saturn is just going to be there. It's going to be there in our birth chart. So check where Saturn is in your birth chart. So for me, it happens to be in the second house, which is my money house. And so the surprises and the challenges that have been brought up was Saturn opposing the stellium of Venus, Mercury, the Sun, and Uranus. Guess what? It's been in my money house. So there's been things that have come up that, that are challenging there, right? Because that's where you're going to see it. So I invite you to check out, like, where is Saturn in my chart? Because that's where the opposition is going to be, right? So, is it in your first house or second house or third house and so on, right? There's 12 houses, right? And so the first house is all about personality, how you're perceived in the world and how you show up. Second house is the money house. Third house of astrology is like neighbors, short-term travel, and siblings. And then the fourth house is your home and your roots and your ancestry. The fifth house is the house of leisure and entrepreneurship and play and all that good stuff and pleasure. The sixth house is your day-to-day routine, like your health and your work and your day-to-day activities. Your seventh house is the relationship and contracts house of marriage and business relationships and contracts. And then your eighth house is, other people's money, investments, taxes, insurance, that kind of thing. And then your ninth house is long-term travel. It's also, like higher education. And it's also like religious ideals and things like that. And your 10th house is your house of career and reputation. Your 11th house is your house of, community and friendships and tribes and all that good stuff. And then your 12th house is, behind the scenes, secret institutions. It's rest and retreat and, the hidden house, right? So you have to look at all of these houses and say, well, where is my Saturn in my house? So, if you're not familiar with your birth chart, hit me up. We can do your birth chart and your astrocartography, and then you'll know where these planets are, because that's how they affect you, is depending on where they are. So guys, right now, as far as how we're feeling as a collective, we're feeling that we're moving forward, but it's slow. We're in a period of transition. It feels like it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We are being challenged. There are frustrations. There are delays. We're not in that new timeline yet. We're getting there, even though it may not look like it. It's like a child growing. You see it every day, so you don't notice how much growth has happened. So don't get frustrated. Stick with it. Be patient. Work on those things. Use this time, especially April, guys. We're coming to the end of it, to transmute the baggage, those stagnant energies, those patterns that no longer serve you, that you can't take into the future timeline, because you're becoming this very different version of yourself. You're becoming the best version of yourself. And so the same thinking that you used to have, the same patterns, the same energies, you cannot bring them with you. The same people, the toxic people, toxic relationships, you're just not going to bring that with you. So use this time to communicate with your future timeline, with the quantum field. Check out those videos I recommended by Feel Good earlier, and really just be patient with the process, because anything new, birthing something new, is very messy. The birthing process is very messy, especially when it's new. We don't know exactly what we're doing. We're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And just be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't have too many expectations, because expectations bring suffering. And just know you're getting there step by step. Take little steps each day to get you closer to your dreams and your goals. Put your energy, your time, invest everything that means the world to you in your dreams, just day by day. Don't get complacent. Don't get, frustrated and give up. This is not a time to give up. You're almost there. We're still climbing the mountain, guys. And really next week, honestly, is going to be preparing us for this super full moon in Scorpio that's happening on April 26th and 27th. And that's actually when Pluto goes retrograde next week, is April 27th. So Pluto is the planet of change and intensity and transformation and deep negotiation and death and rebirth, right? And it's so deep, and it brings out all these, and it rules Scorpio, which is what we're having a super full moon in. And so it's a great time around April 26th, 27th to do shadow work, to really look in the mirror and see like what aspects of myself are in the shadows, in the subconscious and unconscious mind. Things that you didn't even know existed might pop up for you. So just be prepared for deep psychological dive, because Scorpio is a water sign. It's emotional. It's very deep. And so traumas and wounding and insecurities are going to come up for you. And instead of running away and escaping and doing the Neptunian thing with addictions or traveling or just running away from it, it's not going to go anywhere. You need to transmute and alchemize it and integrate these energies from the past, whether it's this life or your childhood or past lives. I mean, guys, like, some of the things I look at with chronic fatigue and, and autoimmune disorders, a lot of it is because of people that have been abused in childhood, that have not been allowed to stand up for themselves, that have not been allowed to really voice their Mars anger and things like that. And it just comes up in these physical, medical ailments. And so I highly encourage you to process all these emotions, so that way you can heal yourself from the inside out and really kind of heal these psychosomatic autoimmune disorders that doctors don't even know what to do with. It has to do with astrology. It has to do with your emotions. It has to do, with your spiritual thoughts. It has to do with everything, because thoughts become things. And when you have a spiritual disease or thought block, it becomes an energetic block, and then it manifests in the physical, and then it manifests into disease and illness. So guys, everything's related. Everything's tied. If you're interested in learning more about that, especially these times with V's and Corona and you needing to boost your immunity, I highly recommend that you schedule some time on my books, with the link on my website, InsideJobHealing.com, to have a complimentary session so we can talk about the digital LRT course that is really designed to detox you and help you with your immune health and have you feeling great and not being susceptible to coronavirus and all the craziness that's going on right now, and boosting your immunity and helping you heal from the inside out. So take advantage of these energies, guys. I hope that you have a great week. I hope that you're equipped to handle all the challenges and all the frustrations that are going to come up. I love you lots. Rena with InsideJobHealing.com.